Ah, yes, dolphins. Nature's most beloved ocean sociopaths. You know, the same creatures we put on greeting cards and in kids' movies? Yeah, those adorable, intelligent mammals with the permanent smiles are out here committing crimes that would make a crime documentary producer say, maybe we shouldn't air this. They've got names, complex language, self-awareness, and apparently they looked at all that intelligence and decided to become the ocean's most depraved gang members. Stick around because it gets so much worse than you think, and trust me, by the end of this you'll never look at a dolphin show the same way again. The drug use. Let's start light. Dolphins get high. Like deliberately, recreationally high. Most people think dolphins are just out here doing flips and being wholesome ocean ambassadors, playing in the waves and living their best life naturally. Nah. These aquatic fiends actively hunt down pufferfish, carefully agitate them to release tetrodotoxin, a neurotoxin that's literally 1,200 times deadlier than cyanide, and then pass the fish around in a circle like they're at a college party sharing a joint. They'll take turns gently nudging the puffer, being just rough enough to trigger the toxin release, but not so rough they kill it, because dead pufferfish don't produce the goods. Once they get their dose, they enter this trance-like state, where they just float near the surface, completely mesmerized by their own reflection in the water. Imagine if your local group of bros specifically sought out poisonous creatures, squeezed them until they released venom, then got so blasted they spent hours staring at themselves in a mirror going, "Whoa, dude." That's literally what dolphins do. Researchers have documented this behavior on film. Dolphins carefully handling pufferfish with their snouts, passing them around the pod, everyone taking their turn getting absolutely zonked. This isn't accidental exposure. This is premeditated drug use. They know exactly what they're doing. So yeah, dolphins are basically manufacturing their own high from toxic fish, and we're out here calling them intelligent. I mean, they are intelligent. Intelligent enough to create their own recreational substances. Some of y'all can't even figure out edibles properly, and dolphins out here running a whole underwater pharmacy. The gang violence. But drug use is whatever, right? Humans do it too. Let's talk about how dolphins run the ocean like it's gang territory. Most people think dolphins are peaceful, cooperative creatures that work together in harmony, helping each other out and vibing in their little pods. Wrong. Male dolphins form aggressive alliances, literal gangs, that terrorize other marine animals for absolutely no reason. They'll hunt down porpoises who aren't competing for food, aren't threatening their territory, who are literally just existing, and they'll attack them. We're talking ramming them at full speed, biting chunks out of them, throwing them in the air like chew toys until they die from the trauma. Researchers have found porpoise bodies washed up on beaches covered in rake marks from dolphin teeth, ribs shattered, internal organs ruptured. And here's the thing, it's not for food. They don't eat the porpoises. It's not for territory. Porpoises live in completely different areas. It's purely for entertainment. Imagine a group of dudes just walking around jumping random strangers who did absolutely nothing to them, beating them senseless purely because they felt like it. That's dolphin behavior on a regular Tuesday. They're the ocean's equivalent of those guys who start fights at bars just to prove something to their friends. And it gets darker. Infanticide is super common too. Male dolphins will straight up murder calves that aren't theirs, sometimes to force the mother back into mating condition since nursing mothers won't reproduce, sometimes just because the calf is in the way of what they want. They'll also raid other pods and attack juveniles, basically running protection rackets in the ocean. And we got aquariums out here making kids clap for these thugs. Look, honey, the nice dolphin is waving. Nah, that dolphin probably ended 3 porpoises last week and committed infanticide yesterday. But sure, let's get a photo up. The sexual assault. Alright, here's where it gets really dark. Remember that intelligence we talked about? Yeah, dolphins use it to coordinate gang assault. Most people think dolphins mate like other animals. Naturally, instinctively, just normal reproduction stuff. Absolutely not. Male dolphin alliances will isolate a female, surround her completely, block every possible escape route, and take turns forcing her to mate with them. And this isn't a quick thing either. They'll keep her captive for weeks, constantly mating with her, biting her if she resists, ramming her with their bodies when she tries to swim away. The female will dive deep trying to escape. She'll try to outswim them, but they work in coordinated teams like a military operation. One male blocks her path while another attacks from behind. They communicate through clicks and whistles to maintain control, using strategic formations that researchers have documented. This is premeditated. This is organized crime with a plan. Imagine if someone called up their friends, coordinated a strategy, cornered someone, and then took turns assaulting them while others stood guard making sure they couldn't escape. That's not instinct operating on autopilot. That's calculated malicious intent. And dolphins do this regularly as standard behavior. But wait, it gets worse. Dolphins don't even limit this behavior to their own species. They've been documented forcing themselves on other marine animals, sea turtles, fish, even sharks. There are multiple recorded instances of dolphins attempting to mate with human divers, swimmers, and trainers. Back in the 1960s, NASA literally funded a study where a researcher named Margaret Howe lived with a dolphin named Peter, and that dolphin became so sexually aggressive toward her that she had to manually relieve him just so he'd focus on the language experiments they were running. So when people say dolphins are so smart they're almost human, yeah, unfortunately, they learned the worst parts of being human. They saw our intelligence and said, you know what, let me get in on that depravity. The necrophilia. You thought we peaked? Oh no. Dolphins engage with corpses, like sexually. Most people assume that even predatory animals don't typically mess with dead bodies beyond maybe eating them. Death usually signals the end of any interaction, right? Wrong. Male dolphins have been repeatedly observed attempting to mate with dead fish, dead dolphins, and even actively decaying corpses floating in the water. In one well-documented case off the coast of Scotland, a group of male dolphins found a dead female dolphin and took turns engaging with the body. This wasn't some brief, confused moment either. They actively sought it out and continued for extended periods, coming back to it multiple times. Researchers watching this were absolutely horrified because it showed clear intentional behavior, not accidental contact. Some scientists believe this happens because male dolphins have such absurdly high sex drives, and females are only receptive during specific windows, so the males will literally use anything available when they're in the mood. Imagine being so down astronomically bad that you see something that's literally dead, decomposing, and you still think, yeah, that'll work. Dolphins are out here making true crime documentaries look tame. They're the ocean's most depraved offenders, and somehow we're still putting their faces on kids' lunchboxes and selling plushies of them at aquarium gift shops. Part of this behavior stems from their anatomy. Male dolphins are almost constantly ready to mate, while females are only receptive periodically throughout the year. This creates what scientists politely call sexual frustration, and apparently dolphins deal with it by having absolutely zero boundaries or standards. They'll practice on fish they've just caught, on random floating objects, on anything even vaguely the right shape or size. And before anyone tries the "it's just nature, animals don't know better" defense, these are the smart animals. These are the ones that recognize themselves in mirrors, use tools, communicate with complex language, and have individual names. They know what they're doing. They just don't care. Dolphins looked at every moral boundary that exists and collectively decided, nah, we're good without those. The manipulation. Here's the most disturbing part, though. Dolphins know exactly how to manipulate humans, and they're really good at it. When dolphins approach boats, save drowning swimmers, or perform tricks in shows, most people think it's because they're naturally friendly and genuinely want to help us out of the goodness of their hearts. Nope. Dolphins have learned over generations that interacting with humans in specific ways gets them rewards. Free food, protection from predators, entertainment, easier living conditions. They've systematically figured out the exact behaviors that make humans go, oh, and they weaponize that knowledge for their own benefit. That famous dolphin smile everyone loves, it's literally just how their face is permanently shaped. They could be plotting your demise and they'd still look happy. It's like if the Joker's face was stuck that way. The smile means absolutely nothing about their actual mood or intentions. Dolphins have learned to do tricks, approach boats with fake enthusiasm, even help fishermen herd fish into nets. Not because they're being altruistic, but because they've calculated the benefit they get in return. They're running a long con. Like a scammer who seems super friendly and helpful right up until they've gotten everything they need from you, then disappears. Dolphins play the extended game. They'll save a drowning person. Not necessarily because they're altruistic heroes, but because they're intelligent enough to understand that humans provide them with food, protection, and resources when they perform these behaviors. It's transactional. In the wild, dolphins use these same manipulation tactics on their prey. They'll herd fish into tight balls, work cooperatively to confuse and disorient them, even use mud and bubbles to create barriers and traps. They're apex strategists with complex problem-solving abilities. When they interact with humans, they're just applying those same strategic manipulation skills to a different target. So that viral video you saw of a dolphin playing with a dog on a boat? That dolphin was probably running calculations on whether the dog was worth eating, worth using for entertainment, or worth ignoring. Every single wholesome dolphin interaction you've ever seen is just them deciding in real time that you're currently more useful to them alive than dead. So there you have it. Dolphins. Drug addicts, gang members, serial assaulters, necrophiliacs, and master manipulators. They're basically, if you combined the worst aspects of human intelligence with zero moral compass and gave it a permanent smile so nobody suspects anything. They saw evolution hand them big brains and complex social structures and said, "Bet, let's commit crimes." Y'all really thought I was exaggerating with the title, huh? Nah, I ruined them properly. You're never going to see SeaWorld the same way again. Every time you see a dolphin doing a cute little jump, you'll remember everything we just talked about. But hey, they're still my second favorite marine animal. Right after sharks. At least sharks are honest about wanting to eat you.